The art of remaining silent to better control. Machiavelli. Silence is a weapon, sharper than a sword, subtler than poison, and more terrifying than a scream. You may believe that power is found in words, in persuasion, in the art of seduction, in the strength to argue and impose your vision. But Machiavelli whispers a darker truth. It is in silence that true control is born. The one who talks too much reveals himself, exposing weaknesses, desires, and intentions. But the one who remains silent forces others into uncertainty. They begin to wonder, to speculate, to project their fears onto the void. The silent figure becomes a mirror where the anxieties of others echo back to them magnified. In this journey, I will guide you through an ancient and unsettling art, the art of remaining silent to better control. You will see why this principle, though centuries old, remains one of the most powerful tools of psychological dominance. And before we go further, take part in this ritual. Write in the comments, I choose the power of silence. Let it anchor in your mind. Subscribe. Stay until the end because a revelation awaits you. Silence does not make you invisible. It makes you inevitable. Throughout history, silence has been both feared and revered. The ancient Stoics cultivated it as a discipline of the mind. The Buddhist masters embraced it as the gate to enlightenment. And Machiavelli, in the heart of Renaissance Italy, understood it as a political weapon sharper than any blade. In his world, words were not innocent. They could topple empires, ignite revolts, or expose vulnerabilities to ruthless rivals. To remain silent was to remain unreadable, and to remain unreadable was to remain untouchable. The art of silence is not merely the absence of sound. It is a deliberate act of control. When you withdraw words, you force the other to fill the void with their own imagination, their own doubts, their own fears. And in that void, power grows. That is why rulers, thinkers, and mystics across centuries have guarded the secret of silence. Because noise belongs to the crowd, but silence belongs to those who command. Today, in a world obsessed with expression, constant communication, and endless sharing, this wisdom is nearly forgotten. Yet its relevance has never been greater. Silence, misunderstood and neglected, remains one of the most subversive and transformative forces at our disposal. Now that we have unveiled the forgotten roots of silence, it is time to step deeper. Machiavelli's lessons are not abstract ideas locked in history. They are weapons you can wield in your daily life. To master silence is to master perception itself. Let us walk through 7 timeless principles that reveal why silence is the throne of true power. Principle 1. Silence creates mystery. Human beings are creatures of interpretation. We cannot stand not knowing. When you remain silent, you waken an ancient psychological hunger, the need to explain, to decode, to give meaning. Those around you begin to speculate. They wonder what you are hiding, what you are planning, what your silence means. This speculation is often far more powerful than any truth you could reveal. Consider a meeting where one person dominates with endless words, explaining, justifying, clarifying. They are transparent, predictable, and soon ignored. Contrast this with the one who speaks little but observes. Every small gesture from them feels loaded with meaning. People project importance onto their silence. They think, if he does not speak, perhaps he knows something I do not. Mystery is born not from complexity, but from restraint. Machiavelli understood this. The prince who reveals little forces his subjects to weave endless stories, all centered around him. Mystery is not about building walls. It is about leaving empty space that others rush to fill. In that space, your presence grows because the mind always magnifies what it cannot fully grasp. Principle 2. Silence protects you from exposure. Every word spoken is a window into your mind. Words betray your intentions, your fears, your ambitions. To reveal too much is to arm your adversary with ammunition against you. Machiavelli warned rulers that even allies could become rivals, and a careless word could turn into a blade. Silence, therefore, is armor. Imagine a negotiation. The one who rushes to fill the silence often reveals desperation. They disclose what they are willing to sacrifice, what they fear to lose. The one who stays quiet observes. They see the tremor in the voice, the anxiety in the body, the hidden cracks in confidence. By saying less, they risk less. They become a fortress without open gates. Psychologically, silence shifts the burden. People begin to confess, to explain themselves, to fill the uncomfortable void. In doing so, they expose their inner workings. The less you say, the more you know. The more you know, the more control you hold. In silence, you cannot be misquoted, manipulated, or cornered. It is the shield that turns every conversation into an advantage. Principle 3. Silence forces others to reveal themselves. There is an old saying, if you want to know the truth, say nothing. People despise silence. It gnaws at them, it unsettles them, it demands to be filled. And when the silence becomes unbearable, they begin to speak, often too much. Machiavelli observed that power is not seized by strength alone. It is seized by knowing more about others than they know about you. Silence creates this imbalance. Imagine sitting across from someone who says little, who listens intently. The more they remain silent, the more you feel compelled to justify yourself, to explain your motives, to overexpose your thoughts. In the process, you reveal vulnerabilities that would have stayed hidden if silence had not provoked them. The art is simple. When you silence your tongue, you open your ears. And in the words of others, you hear their weaknesses, their fears, their strategies. Silence is not passive. It is a trap. Those who fall into it speak themselves into captivity, while you remain untouchable. Principle 4. Silence amplifies your words. Words are like currency. If you flood the market, they lose their value. If you ration them, each one becomes priceless. When you remain silent most of the time, the few words you do speak resound like thunder. They are remembered, repeated, and magnified. Think of a teacher who rarely interrupts but when speaking commands total attention. Or a leader who listens more than he talks, and then delivers a short, decisive sentence that shifts the entire room. People lean in. They replay the words in their minds. Why? Because scarcity creates value. Silence makes your words rare, and rarity breeds authority. Machiavelli understood that the prince should not waste words on trivialities. Every public statement had to be deliberate, symbolic, and powerful. The silence before and after the words acted as a frame, turning simple phrases into immortal decrees. Silence, therefore, is not about never speaking. It is about disciplining speech so that when it comes, it arrives with the force of prophecy. Principle 5. Silence magnifies perception of power. Silence radiates control. The one who can endure silence without discomfort demonstrates mastery over themselves. They appear unshakable, calm, in command. Others read this composure as strength. The person who speaks too quickly, laughs nervously, or explains excessively betrays insecurity. But the one who sits in silence radiates unspoken authority. In the Renaissance courts, Machiavelli knew, silence was often mistaken for wisdom. A prince who did not reveal himself appeared deep, complex, dangerous. People feared crossing him because they could not predict him. Silence made him larger than life, a figure shrouded in awe. Today, the same psychology persists. In conversations, in relationships, in negotiations, silence magnifies your presence. It whispers, I do not need to speak. I do not need to explain. You must adjust to me. Silence flips the dynamic of control. Do you fear silence in your own life? Or do you use it as a weapon? Comment your answer below. This reflection might reveal more about you than you think. Principle 6. Silence disrupts the enemy's rhythm conflict, whether personal or political, thrives on rhythm. Opponents expect counter-arguments, retaliation, predictable responses. But silence breaks this rhythm. When you respond with nothing, you deny them the fight they seek. You starve their strategy. Machiavelli noted that great leaders do not always win by striking harder, but by refusing to play the opponent's game. Silence is refusal. It is a pause that throws the enemy into confusion. They prepare for your attack, but your silence forces them to question their own moves. They overthink, overreact, and weaken themselves. In human psychology, silence is unsettling because it removes feedback. Without feedback, people lose orientation. They doubt themselves. They lose confidence. A simple unanswered comment, a moment of stillness in confrontation, can destabilize even the strongest adversary. Silence is the invisible strike, the blow they never see but cannot recover from. Principle 7. Silence connects you to inner power. Finally, silence is not only a weapon against others, it is also a path inward. When you close your mouth, you open the gates of your inner kingdom. Machiavelli was concerned with power over others, but the mystics remind us that the first throne to conquer is the self. In silence, you learn to hear your own thoughts clearly. You disentangle yourself from the noise of the world. You observe your fears without speaking them into existence. You find clarity, discipline, and resilience. The one who cannot endure silence cannot endure themselves, and thus will always seek escape in noise. But the one who embraces silence discovers an inexhaustible source of control, not just over others, but over their own soul. This is why silence is feared. It exposes what lies within. Yet for those who master it, it becomes the foundation of unshakable strength. To dominate others without first mastering yourself is impossible. Silence gives you both. We have seen how silence creates mystery, shields your mind, and amplifies your presence. Yet these are only the outer layers of its power. Beneath them lies a deeper field of paradoxes, illusions, and truths that most fear to face. Let us now step further into Machiavelli's hidden wisdom, the second dimension of silence. Not just how it controls others, but how it reshapes reality itself. Principle 8. Silence exposes the ego's hunger. The ego craves attention. It feeds on being seen, heard, and validated. The reason most cannot remain silent is simple. They fear becoming irrelevant. They feel that if they do not speak, they do not exist. Machiavelli knew that leaders who constantly explained themselves appeared weak, for they showed dependence on approval. True power, however, does not need to be confirmed. When you practice silence, you starve the ego. You deny it its favorite nourishment, recognition. At first, this is uncomfortable. You feel overlooked, misunderstood. But soon, silence purifies you. It detaches your worth from constant performance. You realize that your power does not depend on noise, but on your ability to be unseen and yet unshaken. The ego hates silence. The spirit thrives in it. Principle 9. Silence turns confusion into a weapon. Confusion is usually considered weakness. Yet silence transforms it into strength. When you withhold responses, you create ambiguity. Your adversaries begin to question themselves. Did you agree with them? Did you disagree? Did you notice their mistake? Or are you planning something greater? The lack of clarity destabilizes them more than open opposition ever could. Machiavelli thrived in a world of plots and shifting alliances. To survive, he advised rulers never to reveal their entire position. Silence allowed them to remain unreadable. In modern life, this tactic remains deadly effective. By staying silent when provoked, you create an unsettling fog. Others lose their certainty. And in that uncertainty, they make errors. Confusion, when deliberate, is not weakness. It is control. Silence is the smoke in which enemies stumble. Principle 10. Silence preserves energy. Words consume energy. Arguments drain spirit. Endless explanations scatter your focus. Silence, on the other hand, conserves power. It is the discipline of economy. Machiavelli advised rulers to expend resources only when necessary, and the same applies to speech. Every word spent is energy that cannot be reclaimed. In silence, you gather strength. You observe instead of react. You build instead of leak. This is why silence feels so powerful. It is concentrated energy. When finally released through speech or action, it arrives with devastating force. Think of great martial artists. Their deadliest strikes emerge from stillness. In the same way, silence prepares your mind for precision. The noisy ones exhaust themselves before the battle begins. The silent ones arrive untouched, focused, ready. Principle 11. Silence creates illusions of depth. A paradox of human psychology. The less you say, the more people assume you know. This illusion has carried leaders, philosophers, and mystics to legendary status. Machiavelli saw that rulers who spoke sparingly seemed profound, even if they possessed little wisdom. Silence magnifies the projection of depth. Consider how in conversation the one who talks endlessly soon sounds shallow, repetitive, predictable. But the one who speaks in fragments, with pauses of silence, appears to be thinking at levels beyond ordinary reach. People ascribe hidden meanings where none exist. They assume the silent one has insight too sacred to reveal. Silence need not always come from knowledge. Sometimes it is only discipline. Yet the world interprets it as genius. This is why those who understand silence appear to hold secrets that others long to uncover. Depth is often not what you possess, but what silence allows others to imagine. Principle 12. Silence reshapes. Desire. The modern world runs on noise. Advertisements scream. Influencers shout. Politicians argue. Noise is designed to seduce you into endless desire. But silence breaks this spell. When you step into silence, the noise of false cravings fades. You begin to see which desires are yours and which were implanted by others. Machiavelli was less concerned with personal enlightenment than survival and control. Yet even he saw that rulers must not be slaves to desire. A prince who speaks too quickly of his wants reveals what can be used against him. Silence, therefore, guards not just information but also desire itself. The discipline of silence reshapes your relationship with wanting. You learn to want less, and in wanting less, you become unassailable. Desire is leverage. To hide it is freedom. Comment this phrase below if it resonates with you. True power desires nothing. Silence is timeless. Noise always belongs to the present moment, but silence stretches across it. When you master silence, you slow perception. You make others wait. You turn seconds into hours. In courts of power, silence stretched into unbearable pauses that forced rivals into rashness. In your life, silence creates the same effect. A delayed response unsettles the impatient. A long pause before speaking makes every ear lean closer. Silence manipulates the rhythm of time. By refusing to rush, you gain the advantage of patience. Others burn themselves out in urgency while you endure. Machiavelli knew that the game of power was often not about brilliance but about endurance. And silence, above all, is endurance made visible. Principle 14. Silence is the final judge at the end. Silence is not merely a tool. It is the ultimate verdict. Words can be debated, twisted, doubted. But silence carries an authority beyond argument. The executioner says nothing before the blade falls. The universe itself, vast and infinite, is silent. And from that silence, everything draws its weight. Machiavelli may not have spoken of cosmic silence, but he grasped its earthly reflection. Silence ends debates without winning them. It settles conflicts without words. It leaves an imprint stronger than rhetoric. This is why silence is feared, because it is final. To remain silent is to refuse to be pulled into games of noise. It is to exist beyond them. And in that refusal lies sovereignty. Theory alone is not enough. If silence remains only a concept, it cannot transform you. Machiavelli's wisdom is not meant for libraries. It is meant for the battlefield of life. Your conversations, your relationships, your struggles. Let us now bring silence down from the throne of philosophy into the ground of daily practice through 7 exercises you can live starting today. Exercise 1. The discipline of the unspoken response. The first practice is simple. Resist the urge to answer immediately. When asked a question, when challenged, when pressured, allow silence to breathe. Count to 5 in your mind before replying. This brief pause shifts the balance of control. The other person feels tension, and in that tension, they reveal more about themselves than they intended. This exercise strengthens your ability to endure silence without panic. It teaches you to detach from impulse, to respond deliberately rather than reactively. With time, those around you begin to notice your calm power. You no longer seem rushed, desperate, or easily provoked. You seem deliberate, thoughtful, in command. Exercise 2. The silent observer. Choose a setting, a family discussion, a workplace meeting, a social gathering, and commit to speaking less than half of what you normally would. Instead of contributing constantly, focus on listening and observing. Watch the body language of others. Notice the nervous laugh, the subtle contradiction, the hunger for validation. This practice opens your eyes to patterns hidden beneath words. You begin to see not just what people say, but why they say it. Their silence becomes louder than their speech. And by positioning yourself as the one who listens more than speaks, you become the invisible center of the room. Exercise 3. The power of withholding desire. Machiavelli taught that revealing your desires makes you vulnerable. Practice silence by concealing what you want most. If someone asks what your next plan is, resist the urge to reveal everything. Instead, give vague but firm answers, or none at all. This discipline builds an aura of unpredictability. People cannot manipulate you if they do not know what you are after. By practicing restraint, you free yourself from being controlled by others' knowledge of your goals. You remain the architect of your own path, while others waste energy trying to guess it. Exercise 4. The mirror technique. When confronted, criticized, or provoked, do not respond with explanations or arguments. Instead, maintain silence and eye contact. Let the weight of their words return to them like an echo. Often, the aggressor will continue talking, justifying themselves, softening their tone, or exposing hidden fears. This technique is uncomfortable at first, because it demands you hold ground without defending yourself. But it teaches you that silence can be stronger than the sharpest reply. The mirror technique transforms you into a surface where others see their own reflection, and often, their own weakness. Exercise 5. The ritual of solitary silence. Set aside at least 15 minutes each day for total silence. No phone, no music, no speaking, no writing. Sit with yourself. Notice how restless your mind becomes, how your ego cries for stimulation. Do not escape it. Endure it. This ritual strengthens your inner kingdom. You begin to hear thoughts you normally drown with noise. You discover your hidden fears and desires. At first, silence feels heavy. Over time, it becomes a well of clarity. When you master inner silence, outer silence becomes effortless. No one can use your need for noise against you. Exercise 6. The art of strategic silence in conversation. Next time you want to persuade or influence, use silence as part of your speech. Deliver a sentence, then pause. Allow the silence after your words to sink into the listener's mind. Resist the temptation to explain or soften the impact. This exercise amplifies the weight of your words. It makes people lean in, replaying what you said in their minds. Silence becomes the frame that makes your speech memorable. You will notice that when you say less, people remember more. Exercise 7. The discipline of endurance in conflict. Perhaps the most difficult practice. In conflict, do not rush to defend, explain, or retaliate. Hold silence. Let the other party release their energy while you conserve yours. They may grow louder, angrier, even more emotional, but eventually they exhaust themselves. And when they are drained, your calm silence appears as strength, as wisdom, as control. This exercise reveals the true power of silence in the battlefield of human interaction. The one who can remain silent while under attack is not weak. He is unshakable. His silence is the wall against which every wave breaks. At first, these practices will feel unnatural. Your body will itch to speak, to explain, to fill the silence. You will fear being misunderstood, judged, or forgotten. This is the ego's rebellion. Do not surrender. With time, the discomfort fades and silence becomes your natural state. You will also face resistance from others. Some will accuse you of arrogance. Others will project onto your silence emotions that are not yours. Let them. Remember, silence is a mirror, and what they see is their own reflection, not yours. These 7 practices are not games. They are disciplines. If you live them daily, silence will stop being an absence and will become a presence stronger than noise. You will notice your words carrying greater weight, your presence commanding greater respect, and your enemies stumbling in the fog you create. Machiavelli taught it to princes. Now you can wield it in your own life. The art of silence is no longer hidden. It belongs to you. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is not weakness. It is power. Machiavelli understood this long before our modern world of endless noise and constant distraction. He saw that the prince who controlled his tongue controlled his fate. He knew that the ruler who spoke less ruled longer, because his silence commanded more fear, more respect, and more imagination than any speech ever could. You have now walked through the hidden corridors of this art. How silence creates mystery, shields you from exposure, forces others to reveal themselves, amplifies your words and magnifies your presence. You have seen how it disrupts rhythm, preserves energy, reshapes desire, and even transforms the battlefield of the self. These are not fragments of theory. They are living tools you can hold, sharpen, and wield in your daily life. And yet, here lies the final paradox. Silence is not about controlling others alone. It is about transforming yourself. For in silence, you confront your ego, your restlessness, your fear of being unseen. In silence, you discover whether you are master of your inner world or prisoner of your own need for validation. The man or woman who cannot endure silence cannot endure themselves. And if you cannot endure yourself, how will you ever endure the world? This is the unspoken truth that few dare to face. Silence is not comfortable. It exposes you. It challenges you. It holds up a mirror without distortion. Most people run from it, seeking constant distraction to avoid hearing their own thoughts. But those who stay, those who endure, those who claim silence as their ally, they rise above the noise of the crowd. They become unreadable, unshakable, inevitable. Machiavelli's wisdom still burns because it touches a wound of our age. We live in a time of compulsive expression where every thought must be shared, every desire posted, every moment recorded. But in this storm of noise, true power belongs to the few who withhold, to the few who choose silence not as weakness but as strategy, not as absence but as presence. And now, the question returns to you. Will you continue to flee from silence, filling every void with words, or will you master it, bend it, and wield it as the invisible crown of power? The choice is yours. If this journey has stirred something within you, declare it. Write in the comments these words: silence is my strength. Let it be your signature, your vow, your reminder. And if you're ready to continue uncovering truths that the world prefers you never see, subscribe to this channel, share this video, and remain with us. For here, we do not chase noise. We awaken to power. Remember this as you leave. Words may echo for a moment, but silence endures forever. And the one who commands silence does not simply walk among men. He walks as if he were destiny itself.